What's up everybody, Andrew Mahone here with Tricky Jim at Full Grip Games. Today I'm going to be doing a set review of the upcoming Pokemon trading card game set Chilling Reign, due out June 18th. This set looks really cool. It's a combination of Japan's Matchless Fighters, Silver Lance, and Jet Black Spirit sets, and it's going to include the Galarian Bird Trio as well as Ice Rider and Shadow Rider Calyrex, which I'm really stoked about. The set's going to have over 190 cards, including some amazing alt art cards as well. I'm excited to show off the set, but before we get to it, I wanted to take a moment to let you know I am selling these screen printed Tricky Jim t-shirts for a limited time this week only. They're $20 and they really help to support the channel, so big shout out to everybody who's already picked one up. It really makes a huge difference. The link is in the description below. Now let's check out Chilling Reign. We're going to kick things off with the Matchless Fighters portion of Chilling Reign over on Guardian. We got to open a bunch of this set on stream. It was a lot of fun and we opened some really cool cards out of our pack, so I definitely recommend checking out that YouTube video if you haven't seen it already. I'll drop the link to it in the description below. First off, we've got Dracozolt V and Dracozolt VMAX. They are looking goofy as ever. Some lightning dragon looking fellas. Rumblebeak for 1 lightning energy does 30 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't attach any energy from their hand to the defending Pokemon. It's kind of disruptive, but that effect gets removed if the defending Pokemon moves to the bench, and a lot of decks are playing high switch counts right now. And then for 2 lightning and a colorless, Mountain Swing does 180 damage, but you have to discard the top 3 cards of your deck. Dracozolt V does have a nice respectable 220 HP and evolves into Dracozolt VMAX, who's got 330 HP and 2 attacks. Trap Spark for 1 lightning energy does 60 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, even if this Pokemon is knocked out, you put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Now that is a pretty cool effect. Obviously, you can get around it with Boss's Orders or Escape Rope or even Fion, but you can stick your opponent in a pretty awkward position for just 1 lightning energy, and I kind of like that. And then for a lightning and 3 colorless energy, Max Impact does 200 damage. You can use triple acceleration energy to power this up until it rotates. I'm not exactly sure that this is the most competitive card in the world, but Trap Spark is pretty fun, and you could even pair it with Rocky Helmet to punish your opponent even more for swinging into your Dracozolt VMAX. Hatterene is a stage 2 Pokemon with an ability, Witch's Sonata, which reads, once during your turn, you may switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, then have your opponent switch their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. So it does offer your deck a little bit of mobility, but at what cost? You have to set up a stage 2 Pokemon that barely has any hit points, and its attack is not all that great. For 2 colorless energy, Psychic does 30 damage plus 50 more damage for each energy on your opponent's active Pokemon. All in all, probably not going to be worth the space to set up a stage 2 Pokemon for Hatterene's ability. Passimian is a new Rapid Strike Pokemon with the ability Throwing Coach. It reads, all of your Rapid Strike Pokemon's attacks deal 30 more damage to your opponent's bench Pokemon V and bench Pokemon GX, and you can't apply more than 1 Throwing Coach ability at a time. This pairs perfectly with Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and really fixes some of the math with that card. All of a sudden, Gmax Rapid Flow goes from dealing 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon V to dealing 150 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon V, and then you can add Telescopic Sight on top of that to deal 180 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon V. So if your opponent has 2 Crobat V on the bench, you can one-hit KO both of them at the same time with 1 Gmax Rapid Flow with Passimian and Telescopic Sight. So I think this card is going to be very good with Rapid Strike or Urshifu VMAX. I also think that this card is going to be playable with the new Zeraora V, which we're going to review later in this video. Clara is a new recovery supporter that allows you to choose up to 2 Pokemon and up to 2 basic energy from your discard pile and put them into your hand. This is a nice option for getting resources back from the discard pile. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Rescue Stretcher. It seems like an effect that we would probably prefer to replicate with item cards. Ordinary Rod does the same thing as Clara, except Ordinary Rod throws the Pokemon back into the deck instead of back to your hand. I think I'd rather play Ordinary Rod over this card because Ordinary Rod you could just use on the fly as an item instead of having to waste your supporter for turn on this effect, but it's still a neat little option to have. Avery is a pretty cool new supporter card that allows you to draw 3 cards, then your opponent discards their bench Pokemon until they have 3 bench Pokemon remaining. This is very good against Eternatus VMAX. Imagine an Eternatus VMAX player has a full bench of 8, and then you force them to discard down to 3. That would be very disruptive. Unfortunately, I don't think Avery is going to be very good against many other decks, considering your opponent could just take that opportunity to discard their Crobats and Dedennes and things like that from their bench, which you don't actually want them to be able to do. So Avery, very good against Eternatus VMAX, but I'm not quite sure it's very good against anything else. Right now, control players are using Excadrill from Unified Minds to put resources from their discard pile back into the deck, but eventually Excadrill will rotate, and then they will have Slurpuff. For 2 colorless energy, Follow the Smell allows you to flip 3 coins. For each heads, you choose a card from your discard pile, show it to your opponent, and put it into your hand. You can get Crushing Hammers back from your discard pile or Disruptive Supporters, and you can even pair Slurpuff with Glenwood Tangle to make sure that you flip more heads than tails. Rapid Strike Blaziken V and Blaziken VMAX have some really sweet artwork. I know there's a lot of Blaziken fans out there, and they definitely won't be disappointed in these cards, especially that awesome alternative art Blaziken VMAX. Blaziken V has 210 HP and 2 attacks. High Jump Kick does 50 damage for 2 colorless energy, and then Fire Spin does 210 damage for 2 fire and 2 colorless, and you have to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. And then Blaziken VMAX has 320 HP and 2 attacks. Clutch does 60 damage for 1 fire energy, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. That kind of effect is not super great right now, considering a lot of decks are playing Switch and Escape Rope. And then Max Blaze for 2 colorless energy does 130 damage, and you can attach an energy card from your discard pile to each of up to 2 of your bench Rapid Strike Pokemon. I think that Max Blaze could be great for accelerating energy onto Rapid Strike or Urshifu VMAX or the new Zeraora V, since they're both Rapid Strike Pokemon. You can accelerate special energy from the discard pile to those Pokemon like Rapid Strike Energy. I think that Blaziken VMAX is best as a support style Pokemon since it doesn't actually do a lot of damage, but it could be good for setting up knockouts for either Rapid Strike or Urshifu VMAX or Zeraora V, which we're going to show off later. Funny enough, Blaziken V actually does more damage than Blaziken VMAX, so you could use Blaziken VMAX to accelerate energy to Blaziken V, who is actually going to be knocking things out, since your Blaziken VMAX is really only ever going to be one-hit KOing Zacian V. I'm a huge Slowking fan, have been ever since the movie Pokemon 2000, so I'm definitely stoked on Single Strike Galarian Slowking V and Single Strike Galarian Slowking VMAX. I was even lucky enough to pull an Alt Art Galarian Slowking V out of one of my Matchless Fighters booster boxes. Galarian Slowking V has 220 HP and 2 attacks. Compound for 1 colorless energy, requires that you discard a card from your hand. If you do, you draw 3 cards. And then Spell of Ruin for darkness and a colorless energy can one-hit KO anything in the Pokemon TCG. Just not like this turn. Maybe next turn, next week sometime, tomorrow, just not today. Feeling kind of lazy. Spell of Ruin reads, at the end of your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon will be knocked out. Now, unfortunately, if the defending Pokemon moves to the bench, all effects of attacks get removed, including the effect of Spell of Ruin. So, Spell of Ruin gets ruined if your opponent switches, which is unfortunate. And there's a lot of Switch being played, but if you could somehow stop them from switching, then they will totally get knocked out, you know, just next turn, not this turn. And then Galarian Slowking VMAX has 320 HP, and its attack Max Blight for a darkness and a colorless energy does 10 damage. Wow. 10 damage. But wait, there's more. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Okay. And you put 12 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon between turns. So if the defending Pokemon doesn't switch out of the poison or heal it in any way, they're going to be eating 250 damage for just 2 energy, which is pretty cool. And you can use Single Strike Energy to boost your damage output, so you can hit 270, 290 damage if you have 2 Single Strike Energies attached. And you can pair it with Toxicroak that has the more poison ability, so that you could hit upwards of 300 plus damage if the defending Pokemon doesn't, you know, heal itself. That's the important part, right? They can't heal themselves. They can't switch out of it. So I think the common denominator between Galarian Slowking V and Galarian Slowking VMAX is that you really don't want the defending Pokemon switching. Brawly is a new Rapid Strike supporter that allows you to search your deck for up to 3 basic Rapid Strike Pokemon and put them onto your bench. I like the idea of this kind of supporter, however, I think it's really negatively impacted by the new Turn 1 supporter rules. You really want to play Brawly on the first turn of the game going first, and since you can't, I think Brawly ultimately is not going to end up seeing that much play. Karen's Conviction is a single strike supporter that reads during this turn, your single strike Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has already taken. So it doesn't do anything at the beginning of the game, but as soon as your opponent starts taking prizes, Karen's Conviction boosts your single strike Pokemon's damage output. If your opponent has taken 5 prizes, Karen's Conviction is going to make your single strike Pokemon do 100 more damage. That is some significant damage boost from a supporter card. I think Karen's Conviction is really good and can definitely help your single strike deck fix numbers, and you can even retrieve it with the effect of Eldegoss V. So I think that Karen's Conviction has a lot of potential. Echo Horn is a Rapid Strike item that allows you to put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto their bench. It's Target Whistle, but Rapid Strike flavored. Arceus Dialga and Palkia GX with Zacian V is going to love this card. They already play Mawile GX, which could trap basic Pokemon from your opponent's hand, but now the discard pile is not even safe. So the only way to protect against Arceus Dialga and Palkia GX from putting unwanted basic Pokemon on your bench is to jam your own bench. So you got to fill your bench so that they can't do it for you. Echo Horn, I think, is also really good with Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. You can bring up weak Pokemon onto your opponent's bench so that you can KO them again with Gmax Rapid Flow. It's also good in Dragapult VMAX decks, bringing up weak Pokemon that then you can finish off with the effect of Dragapult VMAX's attack. Welcoming Lantern is a single strike item that allows you to put a single strike supporter from your discard pile into your hands, like Versus Seeker, but for single strike supporters. I think if there are going to be some very good single strike supporters, then Welcoming Lantern will be a welcoming addition to the single strike arsenal. Inteleon is a Rapid Strike Pokemon with the ability Rapid Shooter, which reads once during your turn, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's like Decidueye. Remember Decidueye? We had so much fun with Decidueye GX, but Rapid Shooter, only 2 damage counters in a format where Pokemon have 340 HP. It's not going to be quite the same, okay? Decidueye did 90 damage with its attack and then could place 2 damage counters, and it really added up back then. I'm not exactly sure that 2 damage counters really does the same thing now that it used to do back in the Sun and Moon era, unfortunately. And then Inteleon's attack Waterfall does 70 damage for 2 colorless energy. Drizzyle's bounce attack does 40 damage for 2 colorless energy, and you can switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. I was hoping that maybe we would get another one of those water duplicates like Greninja, but nah, unfortunately Drizzyle's not really cutting it there. And then Sobble can rally them up. You search your deck for up to 3 basic Rapid Strike Pokemon and put them onto your bench. Well, that's really good, okay? So that could really help you set up your your Inteleons. I like that. And then Double Spin for 2 colorless energy. You flip 2 coins, and this attack does 20 damage for each heads. Single Strike Beedrill has 130 HP and a hilarious pun for an attack. Persistent. It's like persistent, but you get the joke. Are you happy that I explained the joke? I enjoyed explaining the joke. I hope you liked that. Persistent Strike. If your opponent's active Pokemon has any special energy attached to it, they're now out of here. That's it. One hit KO. It absolutely donezo. Doesn't matter how much HP they got. If there's a special energy there, they're gone. However, it is a stage 2 Pokemon, so your opponent can probably see the Beedrill coming from a mile away. Unless you played Mustard to get it into play, which is, pretty difficult. And then Jet Spear for 1 grass energy does 110 damage, and you can discard an energy from this Pokemon. 110 for 1 is good. So it's like not a bad Pokemon, but it's only got 130 HP, unfortunately. We've got 2 new bears in this set as well. Single Strike Urshifu is a 140 hit point stage 1 Pokemon with 2 attacks. Field Crush for a dark and a colorless does 50 damage, and if your opponent has a stadium in play, you can discard it. And then Carnage Knuckle for 2 dark and a colorless does 100 plus 100 more damage if you have any damage counters on your Single Strike Urshifu. I think that attack is a little bit situational. Yeah, I can do 200 damage, even more with Single Strike energy, but it's going to be pretty difficult to load all that energy onto a single prize Pokemon that only has 140 HP. I prefer my stage 1s to have like 300 HP and a little VMAX tag. I don't even care about giving up 3 prizes. It's totally worth it. And then Rapid Strike Urshifu, similarly 140 HP, stage 1 Pokemon, has 2 attacks. Slash Claw does 40 damage for 1. And then Rapid Rush for a water and a colorless does 30 damage for each of your Rapid Strike Pokemon in play. So you're telling me if I'm playing expanded format and I have 9 Rapid Strike Pokemon in play, then for 1 Rapid Strike energy, I can do 270 damage. I don't really think these guys are all that great. Galarian Chestplate is a new Pokemon tool that reads the Pokemon with Galar in its name that this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. We've seen these kinds of Pokemon tools be effective, like Metal Frying Pan and Metal Goggles in your Lucario and Metal decks. All it takes is the right kind of tanky stall-like deck for Galarian Chestplate to really be an effective tool card. Galarian Runerigus has got kind of an interesting ability. Vengeful Lithograph reads, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon VMAX, even if this Pokemon is knocked out, you put damage counters on the attacking Pokemon equal to the damage done to this Pokemon. So it could be a pretty interesting way to wall off or punish Pokemon VMAX decks. Ultimately, I think cards like Altaria that just prevent the damage altogether are probably stronger, but it's at least interesting and worth talking about. And then Energy Press for 3 colorless energy does 60 damage plus 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you could swing with Energy Press and then punish your opponent's Pokemon VMAX, but all they have to do is attack you with a regular Pokemon V, and then you're going to be out of luck. Zangoose is a new Rapid Strike Pokemon with the attack Hurricane Claws. For 3 colorless energy, it does 50 damage, and if you played a Rapid Strike supporter card from your hand during your turn, it also does 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you compare this with the new Passimian and do 80 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon V or GX, and then you could also pair it with Telescopic Sight so that you're dealing 110 damage to your opponent's Pokemon V or Pokemon GX, but at the end of the day, you have to play a Rapid Strike supporter card for that attack effect to be any good, and all in all, I think it's pretty situational. Dyna Tree Hill is a new stadium card that makes it so that Pokemon in play cannot be healed. I think that most stadiums are taking a pretty big hit in playability right now because of Chaotic Swell. It's all over the place, it counters stadiums and prevents them from coming into play, but I think that after Chaotic Swell rotates, we're going to see a lot more strategy involving stadium cards, and I think a stadium card that prevents the healing effect of a card like Cheryl could be very powerful. Mad Party absolutely despises this card. If you're tired of losing to Mad Party, try playing this thing. Spiritomb for 1 colorless energy knows Ghostly Cry, which reads, for each Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile, you put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. Hey, that's pretty good. But wait, there's more. Then your opponent shuffles all Pokemon in their discard pile back into their deck. It's absolutely crazy. I can't believe how badly this card just destroys Mad Party. You just need the 1 card, and then they're going to be having a bad time, straight up. I mean, there's pretty much nothing that they could do about this. Here we have the Galarian Bird Trio, starting with Galarian Moltres V. It's got the ability translated here as Hellfire Wings. I have a sneaking suspicion that we're not going to be getting that translation on our English cards. It reads, once during your turn, you may attach a darkness energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. You can't use more than 1 of this ability per turn. I think this card is really good. The ability just accelerates energy into play. Accelerating energy is almost always good in the Pokemon TCG. You could play this card in your Eternatus VMAX deck, and before Weavile rotates, you can actually use Galarian Moltres V with Weavile GX to move energy onto your Eternatus VMAX. You could also play it with Energy Switch, or you could just sit the Galarian Moltres V on your bench in your Eternatus VMAX deck and just let its ability charge itself up so that at one point in the game you can pull off an Aura Burn, which does 190 damage for 2 dark and a colorless, and this Pokemon does 30 damage to itself, and significantly that's enough damage to 1-hit KO Crobat V. So I think that Galarian Moltres V could even be its own attacker. You just let it kind of charge itself up in your Eternatus VMAX deck. It can also accelerate energy into play if you're playing a new Weezing deck, which I'm going to be showing off later in this video. Galarian Articuno V has got the ability Reconstruction, which reads, once during your turn you may discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, you get to draw 1 card. I think ultimately this is a pretty weak draw ability. I'd rather use Primate Wisdom or Oranguru to get a card off the top of my deck. However, this is a very strong card for discarding cards from your hand. If you're playing a deck that really wants to discard things from your hand, Galarian Articuno V could be the card to fill that void. And then Psychic Beam does 110 damage for a Psychic and 2 colorless, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. And then Galarian Zapdos V, my favorite. I was able to get my hands on an alt art Galarian Zapdos V, which I absolutely love. It's got the ability Fighting Instinct. This Pokemon's attacks cost 1 colorless less for each of your opponent's Pokemon V in play, which is obviously very strong against Pokemon V heavy decks like Eternatus VMAX, which just happen to also be weak to fighting. It'd be a shame if you could, what's that? One hit KO an Eternatus VMAX. Thunderous Kick does 170 damage for a fighting and 3 colorless energy, and my goodness, before dealing damage, you discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So even if Eternatus VMAX has a weakness guard energy attached, Thunderous Kick is going to be discarding that weakness guard energy and hitting for 1-hit KO numbers when you account for Eternatus's fighting weakness. And all they need to do is have 3 Pokemon V in play, which they pretty much always do, and you're going to be able to use that Thunderous Kick attack for just 1 fighting energy. I think Galarian Zapdos is a fantastic card and definitely a card to look out for if you're playing a fighting weak deck going forward. Volcanion V, 220 HP. High hopes for a Volcanion, since I do really have some fond memories of playing Volcanion EX. This is a single strike card with 2 attacks. Its first attack for fire and a colorless high heat. It's not high heat blast. For a fire and a colorless, Heat Blast does 50 damage, and then for 2 fire and a colorless, Dynamite Tackle. If this Pokemon has 10 damage counters on it, it does 150 more damage. That is a little bit situational. So you could do 250 damage with Dynamite Tackle, but you need to have 10 damage counters on Volcanion, and we exist in a game where 220 is not a lot of HP to have to take out, right? Zacian V can Brave Blade for 230 damage. It can hit even bigger numbers with the Rusted Sword. I do know that there is a card that can boost single strike Pokemon's HP in this set. I did take a little bit of a peek at the translations last night, so your Volcanion V could potentially have 50 more hit points, right? Toughness Cape too. Okay, so with Toughness Cape and with the new Abomasnow, right, you could give this Volcanion plus 100 hit points, right, which then would make it have 320 HP, which is a little bit stronger, right? 320, pretty tough to take out for a 2-prize Pokemon, but I think that Volcanion V does have some just a lot of other fire Pokemon that it has to compete with, most notably Victini V and Victini VMAX, right, that are going to be good, I think, after rotation as well. So a cool card. You could make a very tanky Volcanion deck, but ultimately in order to hit that 250 damage output that we really want, you have to have 10 damage counters. Just compare this to someone like Zacian V, right, that does 230 damage for almost no drawback and no requirement and gets Metal Saucer to accelerate energy onto it. And then Volcanion V, in order to do 250 damage, needs 10 damage counters. I think it's just a little bit too much to ask. Celebi VMAX with the Healing Forest ability reads, once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Grass-type Pokemon in play. That is a pretty strong ability. It is a Pokemon VMAX with 310 HP. It's Grass-type, Fire-type Pokemon are very strong right now, but this is a good healing style ability. This reminds me a lot. There was a Shaman that allowed you to heal 20 damage, I believe, from your active Grass-type Pokemon, right? And this Shaman was played in combination with Venusaur Tag Team GX. I think it was Celebi and Venusaur Tag Team GX was the one released in Team Up. I always get it confused with Snivy and Venusaur. But that was a deck that existed right when Team Up came out. Unfortunately, the next set was Unbroken Bonds, and Grass Pokemon would kind of forever be banished into non-existence, right? Because of the fact that Welder and Reshiram and Charizard were printed. But there was a tanky Venusaur deck that played Shaman that healed the Venusaur every turn, and that was a good deck for, for a little while. So maybe this Celebi VMAX could be played in some sort of tanky deck in the future. You always want to kind of have your eye on abilities like that, as they have been good at points in the history of the Pokemon TCG. And then Max Plant for Grass and a Colorless does 130 damage, and you get to search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So that's a nice kind of setup attack, but I think that if Celebi VMAX really has any sort of relevance in the game, it's going to be for that Healing Forest ability. Look at this big snake Sandaconda VMAX. He is something else, isn't he? I think this card just looks absolutely hilarious. I mean, who doesn't like a gigantic fighting type snake? That is something special, isn't it? Sand Impulse for 1 fighting energy does 60 damage and 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. That is actually a really nice jab attack, and it spreads quite a bit. 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. You can put the Telescopic Sight onto your Sandaconda VMAX to make it do 50 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon V and benched Pokemon GX. Now, in the present format, we do have to contend with Mew from Unbroken Bonds, which is in almost every deck right now because of Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. So Sand Impulse is going to have that little bit of nerf right out the gates because of Mew already being played in decks. However, post-rotation, when Mew is no longer a factor, this could be a pretty powerful spread attack. I'm imagining some sort of tanky Sandaconda deck where you just heal with Cheryl and just blast your opponent with Sand Impulse. Sandaconda also compatible with the Stone Fighting Energy to decrease damage dealt to it. So that's a pretty cool attack. I do like that attack, and I think it's a good value attack for just 1 fighting energy. And then Max Cyclone, 180 damage, and you can move any number of your energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon in any way you like, which is really cool. It reminds me of Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX. With its attack, you could move your energy anywhere you wanted. This is a similar attack, can allow you to move that energy off the Sandaconda, and then, like I said, with Cheryl, you can move the energy off the Sandaconda, heal the Sandaconda with Cheryl, attack with a new Sandaconda the following turn, and kind of continue moving that energy around. So I think this card has a lot of potential, and I think that it is a very cool designed fighting type card that could be the backbone of some sort of tanky fighting deck in the future. Blissey V, kind of following in the footsteps of Wailord V, is a basic Pokemon V with 250 hit points. A big Pokemon. Of course, you could put Cape of Toughness on this thing, give it 300 HP. It's got an ability, Natural Cure. When you attach an energy from your hand to this Pokemon, heal all special conditions from it, and then Happy Blast for 1 colorless energy does 10 damage plus 30 more damage for each energy card attached to this Pokemon. It reminds me of Whimsicott GX, and you know that I love Whimsicott GX. But wait, there's more. Then you may attach up to 3 energy cards from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And it says energy cards, not basic energy. So you can bring back all sorts of special energy from the discard pile, powerful colorless energy, recycle energy, so on and so forth. I'm imagining, in our current standard format, you could play this with Porygon Z to just load all sorts of energy onto your Blissey, make it real big with Cape of Toughness, and just load a ton of energy onto it. Unfortunately, it's not compatible with Twin Energy, because that's for non-rule box Pokemon, and then you also, or I guess non-V Pokemon, right? And then you can't use triple acceleration energy because Blissey is a basic Pokemon, but you can use powerful colorless energy, you can use recycle energy, you can use draw energy, you can use capture energy, all these really busted special energy you can use with Blissey. And since Blissey is a basic Pokemon, it could be paired alongside Porygon Z to help load a ton of energy onto it. I could definitely see a very fun deck being made involving Blissey V. Up next, we've got Metagross V and Metagross VMAX. Metagross V is a Rapid Strike Pokemon V that has 220 HP and 2 attacks. Bullet Punch for 1 metal energy does 20 damage, and you flip 2 coins. It does 20 more damage for each heads. And then Synchro Hammer for a metal and a colorless does 60 plus damage, and if this Pokemon and your opponent's active Pokemon have the same number of energy attached, it does 90 more damage. It's a pretty situational attack. Really, your Rapid Strike Metagross is just here to evolve into Rapid Strike Metagross VMAX, who I think is a pretty interesting card. It's got 330 HP, resistance to grass, weakness to fire, retreat cost of 3, and 2 attacks. Its first attack, Magnetic Adhesion. For 1 metal energy, allows you to search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. So that is a very good attack for setting up your board. It reminds me a little bit of Togekiss VMAX, reminds me a little bit of Steven's Resolve. Both of these cards are good and kind of tanky control style decks. And then we've got that second attack, Max Rush, for a metal and a colorless. Does 100 damage, and during your next turn, this Pokemon's Max Rush attack does 150 more damage. So that attack, unfortunately, does reset if the Metagross VMAX hits the bench. So if your opponent plays Boss's Orders or Escape Rope or Fion, then your Max Rush gets reset. But I think that Metagross is less about doing 250 damage every turn, and it's more about that Magnetic Adhesion, kind of setting up your board and setting up Bronzong, right? And you want to just get yourself some kind of control style cards in your hand with Magnetic Adhesion and kind of build your board state that way and just whittle your opponent down with Max Rush. And then eventually, as your opponent runs out of resources, then you just start swinging with Max Rush for 250 damage. I think that you would play Metagross VMAX in a very similar style of deck to a Togekiss VMAX deck. The benefit of playing Metagross VMAX over Togekiss VMAX is that Max Rush eventually will start doing 250 damage. I think this card is very good with Cheryl and Bronzong, and I think that the real strength in a Metagross deck is that if your opponent misses Boss's Orders for 1 turn, then you're swinging in and doing 250 damage, right? So I think that this is kind of like a slow and steady deck. You build up your board state, you whittle down your opponent's resources, then you reset stamp them and start swinging for 250 damage, which is something that Togekiss can't do. And that's something that I think that I've had an issue with the Togekiss VMAX decks, is that they just give your opponent too much time because they don't do enough damage, whereas Metagross VMAX will absolutely punish your opponent if they don't switch you out of the active. So every turn you're attacking with Max Rush, you're kind of putting pressure on them, and you're forcing them to find a way to push you out of the active, or you're going to be dealing a massive 250 damage. So I do really like this card, and I think it's got some potential. It's going to rely a little bit on how powerful your fire type decks are. We do have access to Coding Metal Energy, though, fortunately, and with just a 2 energy attack, you can use Metal Saucer to easily power it up as well. Caitlin, new supporter card that allows you to choose any number of cards from your hand and put them in any order. This is not new. Hello. This is not new. Caitlin. There we are. Caitlin. Here we are. Put as many cards from your hand as you like on the bottom of your deck in any order. Then draw a card for each card you put on the bottom of your deck. Okay. It's just a reprint, right? It's a reprint, and this card, let me tell you, is a trap. This card is not good. do not play this card in your deck. It might seem good, like you get to conserve resources and draw cards, but I can assure you, I have been playing since Plasma Blast. Before then even, but that's when this card was originally printed. And Caitlyn was bad then, and it's certainly bad now. So you would not play Caitlyn over your researches, over your Marnies, over anything else. And the reason why Caitlyn is not good value is because you have to, first of all, you lose the Caitlyn, right? So like say you have 6 cards in your hand. You have to play the Caitlyn, then you only have 5 cards in your hand. Then you put as many cards as you like on the bottom of your deck in any order and draw a card for each card. So say you have 6 cards in your hand and one of them is Caitlyn. You play the Caitlyn, now you have 5 cards in your hand. And then, you know, how many of those 5 cards do you want to get rid of? Maybe 3, 4? So Caitlyn at max is only going to be drawing an average of like 3, 4 cards. It's just not as good as Marnie. It's just not as consistent as even a card like Bruno. Bruno is far better than this, and Research is better than this as well. So ultimately, I think that Caitlyn is a little bit of an underpowered supporter, and I don't really expect it to see any play. Agatha is a supporter card that allows you to move up to 3 damage counters from your active Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. This is a really interesting supporter card. I like it. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what deck this could possibly be played in, but it's interesting. And I could certainly see this card fulfilling some sort of niche in the Pokemon TCG. I mean, it kind of feels like Grimsley, right? Grimsley is a supporter card that allows you to move some damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one. But this one kind of doubles as a healing card. Not only does it heal your active Pokemon 3 damage counters, it also damages your opponent's active Pokemon. It is certainly a situational supporter because your active Pokemon needs to have some damage counters on it in order for it to work. But we do have Eldegoss V in the format, which can bring supporter cards back from the discard pile, which does make your situational supporters pretty accessible, right? So I think that Agatha could potentially fulfill some sort of role in some sort of tanky heal style deck eventually, and it's certainly a cool designed card. Gloves of Justice. They're a Pokemon tool that reads, attacks from the Pokemon this card is attached to deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active dark type Pokemon. And then it looks like we've got more gloves, okay? Gardening Gloves, attacks from the Pokemon this card is attached to deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active grass type Pokemon. And then I think I've seen even more gloves. So we've got these different kinds of gloves that specifically do more damage to different types of Pokemon. I think this is really interesting rather than just have a blanket tool card like Choice Band or Muscle Band that just increases your damage output by 20. Honestly, I vastly prefer this kind of specific tech style damage boosting card than something like Choice Band or Muscle Band, right? Because these cards allow you to kind of meta game in the Pokemon TCG. They allow you to predict what kind of deck do I think I'm going to see at an event, and they allow you to specifically tech for that kind of deck. So I think that that is good card design, and I think that these kinds of cards are going to make metagaming and predicting what kind of decks you're going to see at a tournament very important, which I think is good because that's a skillful part of the Pokemon TCG. They do remind me a little bit of the Fairy Charms that were a thing. Now the Fairy Charms were limited because they can only be attached to Fairy type Pokemon. They only block damage from Pokemon Tag Team GX or Pokemon GX, right? So the Gloves of Justice, they just do more damage to specific types of Pokemon, the Gardening Gloves, you know, and I think that that is good card design, and overall I vastly prefer this kind of card design than blanket damage boost like Choice Band or Muscle Band. Doctor is a supporter card that reads, draw 2 cards if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon VMAX, draw 2 more cards. Yeah, it's not super great. Maybe we'll get this kind of card. We probably won't even get this card. I was going to say we'll get it in our build and battle kits. We probably won't even get Doctor in the build and battle kits because there's going to be almost no Pokemon VMAX in pre-release format. So Doctor is just a supporter that is kind of meh and not that good. Frostlass is a holo rare with the ability Frost Up. Frost Up, chat. It's like, I'm sorry. Let's go. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may attach 1 water energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon in play. You could reuse that ability with Scoop Up Net. Ultimately, Frostlass, I think, is just worse than Frostmoth. Frostmoth getting you that, that energy attachment from hand, that infinite energy attachment from hand. Frost Up allows you to accelerate from the discard pile. It does notably accelerate to any type of Pokemon, right? So you can accelerate to any color, which is excellent, right? So this is just generic energy acceleration, and it does have to be water type energy though, so most likely would go to a water type Pokemon, and it can go to the active as well, so that is also interesting. So this is a generic energy accelerator, which is important to keep in mind. We're going to be losing Welder going forward, which kind of up until this point was a generic energy accelerator. Some colorless decks played Welder, and Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, those kinds of toolbox decks always relied on Welder. Frostlass is a Pokemon that can accelerate energy to any type of Pokemon, so it's worth keeping in mind for that. I think for purely water type decks, Frostmoth is better, but Frostlass does give you the promise of accelerating to any type of Pokemon, which is really good. And then Crystal Brace for water and a colorless does 90 damage. This Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Okay, Kirlia, Greninja's back, baby. Greninja's back. Oh, man. You guys remember the good old days. You start with your Froakie, turn 2, you evolve into Frogadier, and you use water duplicates, and you look in your deck, and you realize you prize 2 Frogadier, and you feel really bad. Well, the good old days are back, chat. Now we've got Kirlia with the Mirage Steps attack. Allows you to search your deck for up to 3 Kirlia and put them on your bench, which is actually very good for a Stage 2 deck. Now, Greninja caught a lot of flack for being what some players called the world's most inconsistent deck, okay? Greninja did catch some flack, but Greninja was a Stage 3 deck. Okay, you know how much flack I give Stage 2 Pokemon? They're inconsistent, they're hard to set up. Greninja was a Stage 3 deck, right? Because not only did you have to evolve into a Stage 2, then you had to evolve it again, okay? It was essentially a Stage 3. Gardevoir, the Gardevoir in this set has a very good ability, which we'll be getting to, and I think that this Kirlia is certainly very helpful in helping in getting those Gardevoir into play. I think that these kinds of Stage 2 decks won't have any life in a world with Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX, but post-rotation, I think that these kinds of decks could have some life, as a lot of these Pokemon do 2-hit KO Pokemon VMAX, allowing them to trade favorably with them. But Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX has kind of upended the whole idea of a reasonable prize trade for single prize Pokemon. So eventually, when Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX rotates, maybe these kind of Pokemon will have some life. And I think that this Kirlia is very good. We're talking about, a similar kind of setup attack to Greninja Break, which was one of, like it or not, one of the most successful Stage 2 decks in the modern history of the Pokemon TCG. Just let that marinate for a little bit. Yeah, it's one of the most successful Stage 2 decks. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's true. One of the most successful Stage 2 decks in the modern history of the Pokemon TCG. Now, Gallade evolves from Kirlia. It's got 2 attacks. Fighting type Pokemon, Feint for Psychic Energy, does 60 damage, not affected by resistance. And Dyna Blade for 2 colorless, does 60 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon V in play. It's interesting. It's fighting type Pokemon, right? And you could play this as a tech, maybe a one-of in your Gardevoir deck, if you wanted to hit fighting type, or fighting weak Pokemon rather, for Weakness, dark type Pokemon for weakness, colorless type Pokemon for weakness. Obviously, this card just slays Eternatus VMAX, right? If you're playing a Gardevoir deck and you're worried about beating Eternatus VMAX, you just slap one of these bad boys in the deck, and all of a sudden you're one-hit KOing Eternatus VMAX. So I like this card. It's kind of a silver bullet card for those Pokemon VMAX, Pokemon V heavy decks, especially ones that are weak to fighting type. Gardevoir has an ability, Arcana Light. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, attach any number of basic energy you find there to your Pokemon in any way, like put the other cards into your hand. So guaranteed draw 2 with an ability is good. Curlia can help you get your Gardevoirs into play, which is good. And it also can accelerate energy into play. I think that it kind of seems like a convoluted strategy. You'd have to play it as like a quad Gardevoir deck, and you'd have to play it with lots of experience shares to kind of help keep your energy in play, because your energy is very precious. You'd have to play it with a Rangaroo to stack energy on top of your deck, right, with the Primate Wisdom ability to then accelerate energy. And then you've got the Brainwave attack. It does 60 damage plus 30 more damage for each psychic energy attached to this Pokemon. So if you have 3 psychic energy attached to the Pokemon, you're doing 120 damage. I think that unfortunately it would be better if Brainwave did 60 damage plus 30 more damage for each energy attached to all of your Pokemon. But I think that the fact that it only does more damage for the amount of energy attached to the specific Gardevoir that it is attached to. Oh, is it? No, with 3 energy, it does plus 90. Yeah, so it does 150 damage. Did I say 120? All right, yeah. It does 100. Sorry, math bad. 150 damage for 3 energy. I think it is held back a little bit by the fact that it is only the amount of energy attached to this Gardevoir. Not maybe it would be too overpowered if it was all your energy in play. I guess with 4 energy attached, you will be hitting 2-hit KO numbers on Pokemon VMAX, but 4 energy is a lot to ask turn after turn. We do have Energy Recycler, right? So you could put the Psychic Energy back into the deck. You could even pair this with the Survival Kit, so you could look at the bottom of your deck and put Psychic Energy on top of the deck so that you then can draw into them. With Arcana Lights, I would be surprised if this ended up being a very good archetype. It certainly won't have any potential, I don't think, during the Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia formats, but maybe post-rotation. I think there's going to be a lot of life breathed into Stage 2 Pokemon and single prize attackers post-rotation. Rough Helmets is a tool card that reminds me of the Blue Shell from Mario Kart. It's got some Blue Shell vibes going on. And it reads, whenever the active Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, choose an energy attached to the attacking Pokemon and put it into your opponent's hand. I love this card. This card is great. Whenever the active Pokemon is attacked, damaged, you get to choose an energy, you put it back to their hand. Oh yeah, this is a good card. It's a nice card. Energy Denial. I heard there was an energy denial denier in this set. I've been seeing it make some rounds on Twitter. So maybe there will be some sort of answer to cards like this in this set that maybe we will cover here in a little while. But I think Rough Helmet is very good, right? I mean, you could combo this with Inteleon VMAX, which denies energy with its first attack, and then Rough Helmet denies energy, and Crushing Hammer denies energy, and then Fan of Waves denies energy. Energy Denial is very good in the Pokemon TCG, especially right now, since there are not a ton of decks that naturally accelerate energy. We've got, Zacian V has got Metal Saucer. You got Fire decks have Welder. Eternatus decks just have to manually attach. Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX decks have Boltund, and they have Tapu Koko Prism Star. But aside from that, they do quite a bit of manually attaching as well. I think that Rough Helmet certainly has a lot of potential and is definitely going to see play in your energy control style decks. More gloves. Attacks from the Pokemon this is attached to deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active metal type Pokemon. Very good. I like the design of the gloves. There should be a glove for every type, in my opinion. So look, I've seen 3 of them so far. These gloves are pipes. I mean, but look at the artwork on this thing. These gloves look like they would be very gnarly to wear. I would not enjoy wearing these gloves. It looks like you could get an infection from putting these on. They have they're literally gloves made out of rusted pipes, which yeah, I wouldn't recommend sliding those onto your mitts, Jet. Oh, here we are. Greedence. Look at the greedy Greedence, a beautiful holo rare with the ability Brazen Tail. Energy attached to your Pokemon in play cannot be discarded nor put back into your hand or deck by the effects of your opponent's item and supporter cards. Greedence! Let's go! No more hammers for you. No more yell grunts for you. No more blue shell helmet for you. None of that. Greedent protects against all of it. It's a wonderful ability there. And, you know, how much Greedent sees play will depend entirely on how much energy denial there is. Greedent is a nice tech option to have against energy denial. Maybe Greedent will see some play in very specific decks. Unfortunately, one of the decks that hates energy denial the most, Eternatus, can't play Greedent, right? So it's interesting. I think that Greedent will only serve maybe a very specific kind of archetype that really hates to get its energy denied, and then also has the room and the you know, and the flexibility to you know, to accommodate for it. Maybe a Dragapult VMAX deck or something like that. Dragapult VMAX certainly does not like getting its energy disrupted because Shred isn't nearly as good as its second attack. But I think the Greedent is definitely a great option for deck builders to have, and a very, very strong card. Okay, Banets, what you got going on? It's a single strike card with a Resolute Spite attack. For 1 psychic energy, you can put up to 7 damage counters on this Pokemon, and this attack does 20 damage for each damage counter you placed in this way. Hello. Okay. Is this not just a psychic flavored? All right, here we go. For 1 water energy, put up to 7 damage counters on this Pokemon. This attack does 20 damage for each damage counter you placed in this way. Yeah, bro, just let me borrow your homework. Just let me borrow your homework. I'll change some answers so that the teacher has no idea. I'll change some of the answers. I'll totally change it up. They'll have no idea that I copied you, bro. Yeah, it'll be something totally different. Yeah. Just let me copy it during homeroom, right? There we go. So Resolute Spite, it's like the same thing as Froslass Cools, but it's psychic type. And then Creepy Light for psychic and a colorless. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. 50 damage. So I think that the Banette, I mean, the Froslass did kind of see some play in single prize decks as an attacker that could hit for water type weakness. You put 7 damage counters on this Pokemon, so you're dealing 140 damage. Unfortunately, 140 used to one-hit KO Reshiram and Charizard. That was the point of Froslass during this time. It came out in Unified Minds, right? That was shortly after Unbroken Bonds was released. Now, Banette, you know, can do 140 damage, but, you know, 140 damage doesn't actually one-hit KO anything anymore. It can one-hit KO Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. So until rotation, you do have that little niche that you can fulfill, or that you can fill. But yeah, going forward, once Tag Team Pokemon rotate out, 140 damage doesn't really get there versus the big dogs. I'm in love with this card. This is the first time I have seen it. This artwork, of course it's Kamiya's artwork. Of course it's Kamiya's artwork. I have been raving about Kamiya's artwork on this channel. I did pull the alternative art Slowking V which has some incredible artwork by Kamiya as well. And this one, I mean, you just know it's a Kamiya. You know it's a Kamiya piece as soon as you see it. I saw this and I was like, I love this art. I shouldn't have even had to look at the illustrator's name there, because I mean, it's just so obviously a Kamiya piece. So this is an amazing piece of art. I mean, I love the dude here in the corner. Look at this dude, kind of, you know, what is he, a scientist, you know, kind of looking through the matrix here, you know, is did this Porygon, you know, just take the red pill? Like, what's going on? Has he achieved enlightenment? Like, this is this owns. Yeah. All right, here we go. Glitch transmission. Once during your turn, when you attach an energy from your hand to this Pokemon, you may leave your opponent's active Pokemon confused. So an automatic confusion effect, which is pretty cool. And then Super Beam does 170 damage. You have to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. This could be an interesting card in some control-y style deck where you're trying to kind of keep your opponent's active Pokemon confused. I think that that's not a bad ability. It is a stage 2 Pokemon though, and actually its attack is not bad. 170 damage. Okay, if we are talking about what number you need to hit, 170 is the number, right? 170 is the number because you're 2-hit KOing Pokemon VMAX. So not only are you 2-hit KOing Pokemon VMAX, but you're also inflicting confusion every time that you attack. You're also 1-hit KOing Dedenne GX. You're almost 1-hit KOing Crobat V. Maybe I just really desperately want Stage 2 Pokemon to be good, okay? Come on. Maybe I just really want this cool Porygon to be good, okay? Maybe I'm being a little bit too hopeful. But, I mean, it does hit the right numbers to 2-hit KO a Pokemon VMAX. It has probably about 150 less health that Stage 2 Pokemon should have right now in the Pokemon TCG. I'm just saying, Stage 2 Pokemon should have at least as much HP as the basic Pokemon. Come on, Pokemon. Your Stage 2, I need 3 Pokemon in order to get this thing into play. And you could just bench a Zacian V with 220 HP. They should have at least 220. In my humble opinion, Stage 2 Pokemon should have at least as much HP as the basic Pokemon in our game. But I digress. We got some horses. We got Water Horse. We got Psychic Horse. Ice Rider, Calyrex V for water and a colorless knows Blizzard. And it also does 10 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And then Frost Stomp, 140 damage for 2 water and a colorless. Very vanilla Pokemon with some very vanilla attacks. It's really just here to evolve into Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. Similar thing here with the Shadow Rider Calyrex V. For 1 Psychic Energy, no Shadow Cloak. You can attach a Psychic Energy card from your discard pile to this Pokemon. That's a nice little energy acceleration poke there. Definitely don't mind that. And 2 Psychic and a colorless Hollow Bind. Does 130 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon cannot retreat. Very vanilla attack. I think Shadow Cloak is actually pretty useful, though, and you may find yourself using that in a Shadow Rider Calyrex deck. Zeraora V, I think, is one of the best cards I've seen out of these new sets. Zeraora V is insane. It's a Rapid Strike Pokemon with 210 hit points, and it's got Tag Bolt GX as its... Alright, it's not quite Tag Bolt GX, but it's like... It's basically Tag Bolt GX. Kind of. It's like Diet Tag Bolt GX, right? On a 2-prize Pokemon. For a Lightning and 2 colorless, Cross Fists. 100 damage. If any of your other Rapid Strike Pokemon used an attack during your last turn, this attack also does 160 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. You can play this with the Telescopic Sight, do 190 damage if you wanted to knock out Crobat Vs and the like. And the requirement is that one of your other Rapid Strike Pokemon used an attack during your last turn. So I think that implies that it cannot be the same. It cannot be the same Zeraora. So you have to have 2 Zeraora set up. It does have a double colorless in its attack cost, though, meaning that you can use Rapid Strike Energy, right? And then you just have to kind of switch between Zeraoras and attack every turn. And if you just attack with one Zeraora and then you switch and you attack with another Zeraora, then you're doing 160, and then you switch and you attack with another Zeraora, then you're doing 100, 160. I mean, it's a crazy spread attack. Absolutely. Now, in a format dominated by Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and Mew from Unbroken Bonds, then, you know, maybe this isn't going to be, you know, a super big card right away. Maybe it will. Being told in the chat, look at Passimian. I'll check out the Passimian, promise. But you could accelerate to this thing with Boltund, right? And you Boltund, put energy onto your Zeraoras, and then start attaching Rapid Strike energy and attacking over and over again. This could be a pretty potent card, especially post-rotation. I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. You know, Christina Aguilera. They just, you know, Tornadoes just makes me think of that song. Christina Aguilera, I'm a genie in a bottle. All right, Tornadoes V. Don't make me sing it, chat. Don't make me bust out the Christina Aguilera. Tornadoes V and Tornadoes VMAX. Blow through. Oh, chat. Half of the reason you're here is for the history lessons, right? Half the reason you watch this channel is for the, because you didn't know. You didn't know. Blow through. Here we are. Tornadus EX, 170 HP. This attack was real good back in the day. All right? It was real good. Now let's look at what power creep has done to our boy. 210 HP for 1 colorless energy. It does 20 damage plus 20 more damage if you have a stadium in play. Blow through here. 30 damage plus 30 more damage if you have a stadium card play, but it costs 2 energy. It's actually pretty balanced, right? But you do have single strike energy, so you could boost it. You can actually do 60 damage for 1 if you have a stadium in play and you have the single strike energy. You could do 60 damage for 1. Whereas this attack, you had to find one of your double colorless. I guess it's the same as finding. So yeah, it's actually, I think this attack might have just been better. But yeah, you know, this guy does have, what, 40 more hit points? And the second attack, okay, is much stronger. Tornadus EX's was Power Blast, 100 damage, flip a coin of tails, discard an energy attached to your boy. Here we got Blast Hammer for 4 colorless, discard an energy from this Pokemon, no flipping involved. So it's pretty interesting. Now you know, right? Blow through. That's a callback to the old Tornadus EX from Darkness Ablaze. And then Tornadus VMAX. Single strike Pokemon VMAX for 2 colorless energy, knows Blast Wind, which I'm pretty sure is the attack I use after eating Chipotle. And then Max Fujin for 4 colorless energy, does 120 plus damage. If there's a stadium card in play, it does 120 more damage. Then you discard that stadium. Do you guys like that? Do you like that joke? I love jokes. You guys like jokes? I love jokes. All right, so it can do 240 damage if you have a stadium in play. Costs 4 colorless energy. I think it's reasonable. I mean, you could accelerate onto the Tornadus VMAX with your Houndoom. Single strike energy can help fulfill the attack cost. Weak to lightning, you resist fighting. Fighting's a very good type right now. Fighting resistance is just a good resistance to have right now. So I think that it does have that going for it. It's also colorless, can benefit from powerful colorless energy. It's also just a quick attacker. I mean, this is just an aggressive, low-maintenance Pokemon. 210 HP. You can just do 60 damage for 1 single strike energy, right? Okay, so, like, imagine this. Like, you're playing your Tornadus VMAX deck. You go, you know, turn 1, blow through for 60 damage with your single strike energy. And then turn 2, you attach triple acceleration energy. First, you evolve in Tornadus VMAX, triple acceleration energy. And then you're swinging for 260 damage turn 2. So that's like not bad, actually. Like that's not bad. With triple acceleration energy, you're putting a lot of pressure. Turn 160, turn 2 260, right? With triple excel. That's pretty good. Because 60 plus 260, 320 damage. It's the magic number. So you actually do hit some magic numbers with this, right? Because 60 damage can almost one-hit KO, like, you know, your Jirachis and things like that. Maybe you could play Galarian Zigzagoon to help fix some math there. And then your Triple Excel and your Single Strike Energy, you're hitting 260. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Salamence VMAX. I'm not sure that this card is actually better than Salamence VMAX. Salamence VMAX might just be the stronger, colorless attacker, but I think that this card is at least interesting and worth looking at, and it might operate in a very similar kind of fashion to the Salamence VMAX decks. Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX and Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. Shadow Rider, this is probably one of the best cards, if not the best card in these sets. It's insane, okay? Its ability, which apparently is unnamed here, says once during your turn, you may attach a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your benched Psychic Pokemon and draw 2 cards. Accelerates energy, draws 2 cards. That's great. What more do you want out of an ability? Lets you draw cards, and it lets you juice your board with some energy. That's fantastic. It's also got 320 HP. It's got the fighting type resistance, baby, which is exactly what we want out of our Pokemon at this point, okay? Hitting Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX for weakness, check. Resisting Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, check. Getting destroyed by Eternatus, sure. Eternatus, though, gets destroyed by Galarian Zapdos V, which will also be in our Chilling Reign set. So, very cool. And then it's Max Geist. Max Geist? Max Geese? Max Geist. All right. It does 30 more damage for each Psychic Energy attached to your Pokemon in play. 10 plus 30 more for each Psychic Energy. So you load your board with Psychic Energy with that ability, currently unnamed. I think it was Heckgate. Or something like that. And then Max Geese does 10 plus 30 more for each Psychic Energy attached to your Pokemon. So that has the potential to ramp up to a huge number if you have a lot of energy in play. If you have 10 Psychic Energy in play, you're going to be doing 310 damage. But wait, there's more. There's also Cresselia. Is the Cresselia on this page? Where's the... Cresselia. While we're talking about the Shadow Rider, we might as well talk about everybody's favorite psychic goose, Cresselia. It's got an attack, Crescent Glow. For 1 Psychic Energy, search your deck for a Psychic Energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. But if it's the first turn of the game going second, search your deck for 3 Psychic Energy and attach to one of your Pokemon instead. This reminds me of Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds. There's nothing new under the sun, chat. Everything's just a rehash. There we go. It's Flare Starter, but it's purple flavored. It's purple drink, but for Flare Starter, you're purple flavored. You see what I'm saying? All right. Anyways, don't stop copying my homework, bro. Teacher's gonna find out. And then Photon Laser for 2 Psychic Energy. If you have at least 5 energy in play, it does 90 more damage, which is fine. I mean, that's very even. This is like a classic. Like, hey, bro, I'm gonna copy your answers, but like I just changed it just a little bit, right? If you have at least 4 fire energy in play, it does 60 more. And this one's like, this is literally the exact same as like, hey, bro, I'm gonna copy your homework, but I changed it just a little bit, right? It's it's the same thing. Instead of 50 plus 60, it's 30 plus 90, and you need 1 more energy in play. Yeah. In order to do it. Which is, that rocks. I love it. That's hilarious. And then, and anyways, the Cresselia is like a natural fit for our Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX because it helps you get a ton of Psychic Energy into play. Ice, ice, baby. Dun 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 dun. All right. Emperor's Ride. 10 damage plus 30 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So, if your opponent has 5 benched Pokemon, you're going to be doing 160 damage for just 2 colorless energy. But if you're playing against an Eternatus VMAX and they have 8 benched Pokemon, then you're going to be doing 250 damage for 2 colorless energy. Okay, not bad. But wait, there's more. Max Lance for 2 water energy does 10 damage, and you can discard up to 2 energy from this Pokemon. If you do, this attack does 120 more damage for each energy you discard in this way. So if you sack 2 water energy, you're doing 250 damage for just 2 energy. And obviously you could pair that with Frostmoth. You could pair that with Frostlass, right? Which could actually make more sense. Now that I'm looking at this, we showed off the Frostlass earlier. The Frostlass accelerates an energy from your discard pile, right? And you're going to be discarding energy with your Ice Rider Calyrex. So you could play a Frostlass Ice Rider deck where you're just kind of accelerating that energy and over and over again. You could also play with with Frostmoth, but the thing is that Frostmoth only accelerates to the bench, and Frostlass can accelerate to the active. And it could be a little bit difficult to get your Ice Rider in and out of the active. I guess you could play it with Air Balloon, right? And Air Balloon does give you 2 less retreat. Fortunately, this thing does have a retreat cost of 2. So I think that it certainly could work with either Frostmoth or Frostlass. We do have energy retrieval, and we do also have Nessa in standard formats to help your Frostmoth strategy, since you could just bring energy back from the discard pile and then accelerate onto a benched Ice Horsey and then go swing with that again. I think Frostmoth is probably better because then you could play, you could tech in, any number of various attackers. Unfortunately, this dude does have that weakness to metal. Metal Pokemon, I think, are very good right now. Zacian V, they got Metal Saucer, they got Bronzong, and they've got the new Metagross VMAX. So that is a pretty tough weakness to have. I've got my eyes on the Shadow Rider. I think the Shadow Rider is going to be one of, if not the best card in the set. We've got a couple more Shadow Rider and Ice Riders here. Shadow Mist, 10 damage for Psychic Energy during your opponent's next turn. Your opponent can't play any special energy or stadium cards from their hand. That's just a good attack. Kind of reminds me of Chaos Wheel. Guys, remember? Here we go. History lessons. All right. Chaos Wheel. You guys remember Giratina? This is like my favorite thing to do. Giratina EX. Chaos Wheel. Man, for the low cost of a grass, a psychic, and 2 colorless, he did 100 damage. Opponent couldn't play any tools, special energy, or stadium cards from their hand. You could completely lock your opponent out of attacking with the Chaos Wheel if they were playing a special energy deck. So having something that just completely locks out special energy for just 1 psychic energy, I mean, imagine you're playing against a deck that runs all special energy, and then you just start using Shadow Mist and they can't attack, right? So it does only do 10 damage, but you could theoretically just lock a special energy reliant deck out of attacking with just 1 psychic energy, which is very good. And then Astral Barrage for 3 colorless energy. Select 2 of your opponent's Pokemon and put 5 damage counters. That's actually just a great attack as well. You get to spread 5 to 2. Love it. And then Ice Rider Calyrex V. Nose Ram for 1 water energy, does 40 damage. And Glacial Lance. It's 200 damage for 3 water, and you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Now, I've been told in the chat that I should be talking about Melanie while we're taking a look at the Ice Rider stuff. Yes, Melanie is a supporter card that allows you to attach a water energy from your discard pile to one of your V Pokemon, then draw 3 cards. Yes, I did forget about Melanie. All right, so Melanie is also a card that you could use to accelerate energy onto your Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. That does kind of decrease the need for a setup Pokemon because It's kind of like an inverse Welder, right? Welder accelerates 2 fire energy from the hand, and you get to draw 3 cards. This requires that you have a water energy in your discard pile, and you get to draw 3 cards as well. It's not as good as Welder. We're just going to go ahead and put that right on out there. This card is not as good as Welder, but it could see play in an Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX deck, since Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX seems kind of it seems kind of handcrafted for that card, right? Its attack only costs 2 water energy. Melanie accelerates 1 water energy. So long as you're also attaching from the hand, you can stream that attack turn after turn. So I think that Melanie certainly has potential. I like that it's not as good as Welder. I mean, it's not as good as Welder, but I like that. Frankly, I would be kind of upset if Melanie was just a Welder reprint. I would be upset as a Pokemon trading card game player, because Welder, frankly, I thought was a little bit overpowered. And for years, it just made grass decks bad, right? Is what Welder just did to the Pokemon TCG. So, frankly, I'm excited that Melanie seems like a fair and balanced energy acceleration supporter. And I think that it could very well see some play with, with that Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX deck. Celebi V, we did take a look at Celebi VMAX. Celebi V has got 2 attacks. New Leaf Dance. Sounds like something that would be viral on TikTok. Am I right? Attach any number of grass energy from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. All right, Celebi. That seems fine. And then Slash Back. For grass and a colorless, switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. This is fine. I don't have TikTok, all right? I've never looked at TikTok. Yeah, you guys, this is why you're here. This is why you're here. This is why you're here for the dad jokes, right? Sandaconda V. It's got an ability, Sand Barricade, takes 30 less damage from attacks, and knows Land Crush, 140 damage for 2 fighting and a colorless. Evolves into that massive Sandaconda VMAX we saw earlier. Leopard V. It's got the ability Hidden Claw. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand onto your bench, you may discard a Pokemon tool attached to a Pokemon in play. And then Shadow Ripper for 110 damage. Shadow Ripper does 110 damage for a dark and 2 colorless. You may return this Pokemon, all cards attached to it, into your hands. Like a very expensive Sky Return. I think that this card will definitely see play in Eternatus decks. Why wouldn't you play? It's a one of Pokemon, right? That can discard a Pokemon tool attached to a Pokemon in play. I think that this card, you just put this card in your Eternatus deck, right? It's just a bench sitter. Listen, you can't get enough bench sitters for Eternatus. I think that this card's phenomenal in an Eternatus deck, because then you don't have to play Dangerous Drill. And my goodness, I'm a man who hates playing unsearchable one-ofs in a deck. I hate playing unsearchable one-ofs because they're unsearchable. You're just going to discard it in your opening hand, man. I hate that stuff, right? Or it's like, this is the turn that I needed and I can't find it. But Leopard, right? You could just go and quick ball for it when you want to discard a big charm. Boom, something like that. Love it. I think that Hidden Claw ability is very good, and it is a natural fit for Eternatus decks. It's also just a searchable card that discards tools. So for that, I think that Leopard is definitely a playable card, and will certainly go into Eternatus decks. We got a big cold fish, Arctovish V, 220 HP and 2 attacks. Its first attack, Primordial Freeze, does 80 damage for water and 2 colorless. If the defending Pokemon is a Pokemon V or a Pokemon GX, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Don't be fooled. That attack is not good. All right? Don't be fooled. That's a trap, okay? I've been playing the game long enough. That sounds good. You might have read that, and you're like, wow, I can stop Pokemon. You're not stopping anybody, okay? All your opponent has to do is switch to the bench, and then come back into the active position, and then they can get right around your Primordial Freeze. So I'm just letting you know that this kind of thing, though it seems good, is a trap, right? Because almost all decks are playing 4 switch right now. They've also got Mallow and Lana that they could switch out. They also have got Escape Rope they could switch out. They've also got Air Balloon. They could simply retreat out of it. Yes. So, yeah, Primordial Freeze creates an effect on the defending Pokemon, and yeah, and all effects on the defending Pokemon get removed if they switch to the bench. Now, if you were to play this with some sort of item lock deck, the only time that this kind of strategy has ever seen success, right? Any inkling of success was with your old Jolteon EX, right? Yeah, Jolteon EX with the Flash Ray. I will also maintain that this card is not good, okay? I'm going to go ahead and maintain this card was not good, has never really been good, okay? Flash Ray, also a trap. Similarly, this is a trap, okay? This is a trap. Flash Ray, 70 damage if your opponent's, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. Now, this is even, like, better, though, than this, because this is, if the defending Pokemon's a Pokemon V, it can't attack, right? This is, like, you prevent all damage, so your opponent can gust around it, right? And it makes the Jolteon invincible. And it's arguably it's more difficult for your opponent to gust every turn than it is for your opponent to just simply switch their Pokemon out of the active position. In order for your opponent to disrupt this effect on the Jolteon, they would have to gust the Jolteon out of the active position. So even that was like a little bit better than this. This, all your opponent has to do is switch. But this Jolteon did see some play with item lock, right? Because you could lock your opponent out of using items, which then would decrease the amount of gusting effects that they would have access to with Versus Seeker and things like that. This Arctovish could be good with, but even it's just horrible because, okay, here's the problem. Here's the problem, is that Jolteon, and the reason why Jolteon was even playable with item lock is because Flash Ray protects the Jolteon, right? So it could just make itself invincible if your opponent only had basic attackers. Arctovish is eventually going to take a knockout. And when Arctovish takes a knockout, your opponent can just come swinging in with whoever they want and just knock out your Arctovish. So, yeah, don't be fooled. Don't get it twisted. That is not a good attack. Because eventually you're going to take a knockout, and then your opponent can just knock out your boy, right? And then you're having a bad time. And then Giga Impact, 220 damage for 2 water and 2 colorless. This Pokemon cannot attack during your opponent's next turn. It's almost like I've seen that attack effect somewhere before. All right, moving on. Cast Form. I love the quilted boys, the little hacky sack. Look at my. I've seen this before. Wait. You just Google hacky sack, bro. Hacky sack. Yeah, look at. He's a hacky sack, man. There. This is it right here. This is. he's just a hacky sack, bro. Look at him. He's just a nice little hacky sack Pokemon. Love to see it. Ability Forecast. If you have 8 or more Stadium cards in your discard pile, ignore all energy in this Pokemon's attacks. Wait, I've seen something like that. That reminds me of the Rotom deck. And the Rotom deck was famously not very good. But it reminds me exactly of the Rotom. If we take a look at the Rotom, right? Rotom had this stuff, right? Where are you at, Rotoms? Yeah, Rotomotor. Here we are. If you have 9 or more Pokemon tools in your discard pile, ignore all energy attack. Yeah, energy and the attack cost. And then there were different color ones, and they did different things, right? They all had the same abilities. It's like the same thing, right? Except they're cast forms now, and instead of 9 tool cards, I'm going to copy your homework, but I'm going to change it a little bit. It's 8 Stadium cards, right? So 8 Stadium cards in your discard pile. You ignore everything. 80 damage. Draw cards until you have 6 in your hand. That's not enough damage, unfortunately. All right. But the rainy one, water type, okay? 8 or more Stadium cards. Rain Shower. This attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Hey. All right. You're getting a little bit too close to my homework, man. The teacher's going to find out, okay? The teacher's going to find out if you keep this up. All right. Forecast. 8 or more Stadiums, yes. And then Frost Typhoon. 120 damage. This Pokemon can't use Frost Typhoon during your next turn. Just seeing here. 120 damage. Hey. You're listen, man, you're going to have to at least change some of the wording, okay? You're going to have to at least, or a teacher's definitely we're going to get expelled, man. All right. Yep, got it. And then Sunny Form, Cast Form. It's got the Forecast ability. Anti-Cyclone Blast, 150 damage. Discard a Stadium in play. If you can't, This attack fails, so it jives with the forecast ability, getting stadiums into the discard pile. And this actually almost does the right amount of damage. The right amount of damage in our current state of the Pokemon TCG is 160. You need to do 160 damage because you 2-hit KO 320 hit point Pokemon VMAX for 160. So you're almost hitting the 160 mark. I also love this thing. Is it like a toy on a stump? It's a photograph? Yo, shout out to all the photograph Pokemon TCG cards. As a photographer, I love it. That's great. Yep. Love it. So you could theoretically Vitality Band to hit that 160 magic number. So that one does the most. You're hitting grass type Pokemon for weakness. You can also hit water weak Pokemon for weakness with these guys, but you're not doing enough to one-hit KO Pokemon VMAX with this. Feels a little bit like a silly deck, which doesn't surprise me because the Rotoms, they were definitely a silly deck. Path to the Peak. Both players' Pokemon in play with a rule box have no... Let's go! This stadium is insane! This is very good! This is... Wait. Alright, this is like... And I know, how many times have I done this? Is like Power Plant. Power Plant. Yeah, it's basically Power Plant from Unbroken Bonds, right? Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX in play have no abilities. So wait, you're telling me that Power Plant is a dead card now? Sorry, I have never heard of Power Plant. Now all I know is Path to the Peak. Yeah, so Path to the Peak is basically Power Plant 2, and Power Plant is now just a dead card, unless you were playing some sort of expanded deck where you only wanted to turn off Pokemon GX and EX abilities, but did not want to turn off Pokemon V abilities, right? Yes. So, like, I guess, right? If you wanted to play some deck that only targeted GX and EX, but not Vs, you would use Power Plant. But Path to the Peak just seems like a yeah, of course, Eternatus, right? Eternatus prefers Power Plant. Sure. But I think like long term, Power Plant will eventually kind of Power Plant will just kind of fade into the background, and we'll forget that Power Plant ever existed, and Path to the Peak will just be the superior stadium eventually in both standard and expanded formats. I think at a certain point, because Path to the Peak is more disruptive, and usually you're playing Power Plant to be as disruptive as possible. I think the stadium is very good. The stadium will certainly see play. This is a very good stadium. It gets better when Chaotic Swell rotates, right? Chaotic Swell is one of the most disruptive stadiums ever printed in the history of the Pokemon TCG. It's one of the strongest stadiums ever printed in the history of the Pokemon TCG. Basically makes all other stadiums worse, right? And I think that Path to the Peak will be one of the best stadiums in the Pokemon TCG once Swell rotates. And I think it will even see play during the Swell format. Absolutely. This stadium is that good. It will absolutely see play. You turn off Eternatus VMAX's ability, right? And you just make them discard instantly. You turn off Shadow Calyrex. It's just a really good... you turn off Crobat V. I mean, Power Plant has kind of been not nearly as good because you couldn't turn off Power Plant. You couldn't turn off Crobat V. You couldn't turn off Eldegoss. You couldn't turn off Intrepid Sword. Finally, we have a card that hits Zacian V. It hits Crobat V. It hits all these abilities that we have wanted to be able to disrupt. It's finally here. I'm very excited that this card was printed. Old Cemetery is a stadium card. Whenever a player attaches an energy from their hand to one of their Pokemon, excluding Psychic-type Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. That is a very good stadium. That reminds me of Frozen City. There we are. Frozen City. Whenever any player attaches an energy from his or her hand to one of his or her Pokemon, excluding Team Plasma Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Very similar energy we've got going on here. Old Cemetery Whenever you attach an energy to a non-psychic type Pokemon, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. We've got the same kind of exclusivity going there with Frozen City and the Old Cemetery. I think that Old Cemetery is good. I think that you can help kind of chip away at your opponent's hit points. Again, I think the stadium will get a lot stronger when Chaotic Swell rotates. It's a nice little way to bring some of those larger HP totals on Pokemon VMAX down into KO range. You can also use this in your Spiritomb deck. Spikemuth is just better, but it's an interesting combination nonetheless. Yeah, interesting combination nonetheless. Spikemuth is definitely better because you can put more damage counters per turn on your Spiritomb, but definitely an interesting stadium, and I think it probably will see play, especially after Chaotic Swell rotates. Fog Crystal is an item card that allows you to search your deck for either a Psychic type basic Pokemon or a Psychic Energy. Beautiful card. Beautiful card. It's like netball, right? You guys remember netball? For grass type Pokemon, it was an item card from Lost Thunder. Allowed you to search your deck for a basic grass Pokemon or a grass energy card. Netball was fantastic. One of the best, honestly, one of the best search cards ever printed. I mean, yes, it's a very strong search card, but it is only good for grass type Pokemon. But it is very good for grass type Pokemon because it just gets you that early consistency. Fog Crystal is incredible. This is going to go in every Psychic type deck. Why wouldn't you play this card? One of the biggest problems with the turn 1 supporter rule is that it's so detrimental to your game plan, and it's so detrimental to your setup. Even if you play 10, 12, 13 energy in your deck, it's still possible to miss the turn 1 energy attachment because you can't play a supporter card, right? It's actually very easy to miss the turn 1 energy attachment. So going first is almost just a severe disadvantage because you can't play a supporter. You can hardly, search your deck for anything, and then often you miss the energy attachment, which is one of the only benefits of going first, is that you get a turn 1 energy drop, which can just be crushing hammered by your opponent, but you get a turn 1 energy drop, right? Fog Crystal increases the odds that you're going to be able to get a turn 1 energy drop going first, even without playing a supporter. That's one of the reasons this card is so good. It also just increases your consistency throughout the game. I think Fog Crystal is a phenomenal card. It's going to make you miss energy drops less. It's going to also jive with Shadow Rider Calyrex because Shadow Rider Calyrex needs to have that energy in hand in order to accelerate it into play with its ability, right? And you actually only get to draw cards with the Shadow Rider Calyrex if you have the Psychic Energy in your hand and you accelerate it into play. So that Fog Crystal is going to go perfectly with Shadow Rider Calyrex, but I fully expect this card to see play in any type of Psychic type deck going forward because it's just that good. Kecleon is a Rapid Strike Pokemon with an ability Palette Swap. This Pokemon is the same type as all basic energy attached to it. If it has several type of basic energy attached, it is each of these types, and then Spinning Attack does 90 damage. So an interesting card that can type shift, but it only does 90 damage at the end of the day, meaning that even if you type shift to hit for weakness, you're only doing 180 damage. I think it's more of a fun card than anything, and it certainly has some very cute artwork. Gengar with phenomenal artwork. What is with the artwork? Lately, the artwork in these sets has been absolutely unstoppable. I mean, some amazing artwork on these cards. This Gengar is so. Why is he licking the stairs? I just got my second dose of the COVID vaccine, so very excited about that. This is going to be me in T-2 weeks. I'm just going to be out there licking stairs like, that's what's up. Yep, antibodies, baby. I'm licking stairs. Let's go. Licking doorknobs. Yeah, what's up? I'll be licking stairs and doorknobs, building up that immunity, baby. What's up? Alright, it's got an ability, Parting Gift. When this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. And then Pain Bursts. It sounds like what happened when I had appendicitis. This attack does 40 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay, so if they already have some damage on them, you're going to be doing even more damage. Oh, I guess so, right? And you could pair this with Agatha, right? My appendix didn't burst, no, but it almost did. You could pair this with Agatha, I guess, right? Put damage counters on them and then do more damage. You could pair it with Flapple, right? You could pair it with Flapple and you put the damage counters on them with Flapple. I think ultimately Sable IV is probably just better at doing what this Gengar does, but the Gengar is very cute and he'd be licking some stairs. So I do like that. I've also got the Fireproof gloves, which go with the other gloves, which we talked about, and it does 30 more damage to your opponent's active Fire-type Pokemon. Big thumbs up for me. Good card design. Love it. Rabombi. Trick Step for colorless, 30 damage. Move an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon to one of their bench Pokemon. That's a nice disruptive little attack. It's interesting. I like it. But it is on a stage 1. Is it disruptive enough for stage 1? I would prefer that on a basic. If that was on the Cutie Fly, then we'd be talking. But it is some energy denial, so for that, you know, it's at least worth looking at. Lucky Energy is a special energy. When attached to a Pokemon, it provides 1 colorless energy, and whenever this Pokemon is damaged by an opponent's attack, you draw a card. All right, Lucky Energy. It's like okay, we've seen this before. This is a reprint, right? Similar to Lucky Helmet. Whenever the Pokemon is attached to, you get to draw 2 cards with Lucky Helmet, though. Here we're only drawing 1 card. And Lucky Helmet wasn't good, so I don't really expect Lucky Energy to be too much better. Abomasnow is a single strike Pokemon, and it's got an ability Toughen Up, which reads all of your single strike Pokemon in play get plus 50 HP. You can't use more than 1 Toughen Up ability at a time. Thanks, Abomasnow. That sounds great. And then Mega Punch. You like my dad jokes? Yeah, Mega Punch for grass and 2 colorless. Mach Punch, 90 damage. That's good. I mean, this is going to recontextualize the way that you think about single strike Pokemon. The fact that you could boost their HP by 50 with the Abomasnow. I mean, 50 HP is no joke, right? That's a lot of hit points to increase. And the fact that then you could also boost their hit points even further with Cape of Toughness, right? So you could potentially increase your basic single strike Pokemon's hit points by 100 with Abomasnow and Cape of Toughness. And you can increase Pokemon VMAX's HP by 50, bringing them from 330 to 380 hit points, right? I mean, you think about your Urshifu VMAX, giving your Urshifu VMAX 380 hit points, and then also, like Stone Fighting Energy and things like that. It's pretty gnarly. You could make for a pretty big single strike Pokemon with that Abomasnow. I think that's certainly an ability to look out for. Cinderace has got the Hotspot Power. This Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has already taken. And then it does base 150 Fireball Shoot for a fire and a colorless. This Pokemon cannot attack during your next turn. I think that this single strike Cinderace is actually pretty decent. It can use single strike energy to do even more damage, and it almost hits the magic number. I said the magic number is 160 because then you can 2-hit KO Pokemon VMAX. I think that in a world where Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX is rotated, this card could have a shot. I think that maybe the Libero one is better because it just does a consistent 190 damage, right? And it just accelerates energy to itself. So I think that ultimately the Libero one is better, but this one is kind of interesting at least, and kind of has a similar strategy of eventually taking 2-hit KOs. If your opponent has taken 5 prizes, you're going to be doing a whopping 300 damage. You can potentially 1-hit KO a Pokemon VMAX with a single strike energy attached. Malamar has got a single attack. It's Rapid Strike Pokemon for 1 psychic energy. Rapid Tentacles allows you to reveal any number of Rapid Strike cards in your hand. This attack does 40 damage for each card revealed in this way. Then you shuffle these cards back into your deck. I think that, yeah, you could play this with Octillery, and you could play this with Rapid Strike Search, and you could, you could get a bunch of Rapid Strike cards into your hand, and then you have to shuffle them back into your deck. I think, how are you going to get all these cards like into your hand over and over and over again? I feel like this card would very consistently do maybe like 120 to 160 damage, right? If you have 4 Rapid Strike cards in your hand, you can do 160 damage. If you have 5 Rapid Strike cards in your hand, you're doing 200 damage. It fortunately does only cost 1 Psychic Energy to use, which is very good. But I think that it will be difficult to get this many Rapid Strike cards into your hand, considering that you are going to have to put some of the Rapid Strike cards that you get into play, right? Like sometimes you're going to use the Octillery to search for like an Inkay, and you're going to have to put the Inkay down so that you can stream attackers, right? You're gonna search for cards that you have to put into play. You could use Lucky Eggs, this is true, right? You could use these kinds of cards to grow your hand size. Oricorio GX is rotating. Oricorio GX is the kind of card that would help you grow your hand size to these massive amounts. But I think ultimately that the Malamar may be fun for a silly deck profile, but maybe not a competitive card. Flannery is a single strike supporter card, which I think is actually really good. It allows you to choose a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon and 1 stadium card in play and discard them. It might not seem like much at first, but this card will just slide right on in to the control player's arsenal. Control players love this card. Discarding energy is a control player's favorite thing to do. Flannery also discards a stadium card. So if you want to get, say you're playing a control deck and you want to get your gnarly stadium into play, Path to the Peak. Say you want to put a Path to the Peak in play, but your opponent's got a pesky Chaotic Swell. Yikes, what are you going to do about that? Well, I've got an answer for you. You can play Flannery, right? You can play Flannery, you can discard their Chaotic Swell, make room for your Path to the Peak because you're playing a control deck, right? And then you also get to discard a special energy. These kinds of cards have been good in the past. I mean, we're thinking about Faba is kind of our direct point of comparison. It does send stadiums, tools, or special energy to the lost zone, which is slightly more powerful than discarding them. However, there is no way to recover a special energy, well, unless a single strike energy, but there's no good way to recover other kinds of special energy from the discard pile in standard format right now, and no great way to recover stadiums either. So I think that, discarding them is certainly very effective. It's more powerful than Fan of Waves. Fan of Waves puts it on the bottom of the deck, which is really kind of just delaying the inevitable. If you're playing a control deck, your goal is to run your opponent out of resources, and Fan of Waves doesn't actually do anything to your opponent's resources. It just puts them on the bottom of the deck. So it doesn't actually help you deck out your opponent. Whereas Flannery is a more permanent solution to your opponent's resources, discarding the stadiums and discarding the special energy. Seabold is a supporter, Rapid Strike supporter. Allows you to heal 60 damage from up to 2 of your Rapid Strike Pokemon. I think Seabold is just not very good. Mallow and Lana is, that's a great healing card. Heal 120 damage from your active Pokemon and switch it at the same time. Cheryl is an incredible healing card. Heals all damage from all of your evolved Pokemon. Seabold, 60 damage from 2. I'd rather just play a different supporter card, I think. Single Strike Scroll of Stab is a tool card that gives your single strike Pokemon attached to a bonus attack. That bonus attack is Overreach for fighting for a fire and 2 colorless. Usually fire is denoted with an R since fighting is F. You Overreach and it does 120 damage. This attack's damage ignores weakness, resistance, and any other effects on the opponent's active Pokemon, so it goes straight through Forest Camo on Decidueye, goes straight through that, whatever the ability's name is on the Altaria, right? It goes through Zamazenta V, if you happen to be up against a Zamazenta V. I think that ultimately Phoebe is probably a stronger card if you need to get through these kinds of abilities. This Scroll of Stab can allow you to get through those kinds of abilities with multiple attacks if your opponent's not playing a Tool Scrapper or something like that, though. So it does kind of fulfill that role of allowing you to bust through those blockade style abilities while not just being a one-off like Phoebe. and it certainly is going to be a nice tech option for single strike decks. Rapid Strike Scroll of Skies is a tool card that gives the Rapid Strike Pokemons attached to a bonus attack. Flying Suplex for a lightning and a colorless does 10 damage plus 50 more damage for each energy on your opponent's active Pokemon. And it's a lightning type Rapid Strike tool card, so it's going to go with your Rapid Strike Zeraora. I think it's like the only Rapid Strike Pokemon I've really seen that might be worth playing. There's a Zebstrika, but I don't think that's very good. So will you play this in your Zeraora deck? Maybe as a one-of, just to give you an option. You're going to be hitting on average 160 damage. If your opponent has 3 energy attached, if they have 2 energy attached, you're hitting 110, which is certainly not bad for just 2 energy. And it could allow you to just have an attacking option if you maybe only have 2 energy on your Rapid Strike Zeraora V. Unfortunately, it's not compatible with Rapid Strike Energy, though, since its attack cost is a lightning and a colorless. Then we've got 2 new special energy, 1 Rapid Strike flavored and 1 single strike flavored. Spiral Energy is a Rapid Strike Energy, but not to be confused with the Rapid Strike Energy. This card can only be attached to Rapid Strike Pokemon, and as long as it's attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but provides only 1 energy at a time. And the card that this Pokemon is attached to cannot be paralyzed. So it's some nice anti-paralysis protection. I'm looking at you, Tapu Koko VMAX. I'm looking at you, Raichu and Alolan Raichu Tag Team GX. No more paralyzing my Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. You heard? Okay. So that's the niche that this card is going to be fulfilling. It can stop you from getting paralyzed by the Mewtwo and Mew, right, in your Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX deck, which is certainly useful, right? Certainly very useful. So that is good. And it is also a rainbow type energy for your Rapid Strike Pokemon. You could also use Aurora energy, right? So you can have all these different kind of special energy in your Rapid Strike deck. And then Impact Energy is a single strike energy, not to be confused with the single strike energy, which is actually important because you can't accelerate this energy with the effect of Houndoom's ability, right? Just to single strike roar, I think. This card can only be attached to a single strike Pokemon. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every energy. So we got that Aurora thing again. And the Pokemon this card is attached to cannot be poisoned. So we got poison protection if you happen to be running into those Poison Eternatus VMAX decks. Just going to scan through these guys real quick. He looks really cute. Whap, 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 whap. Love it. All right, very cool. Then we got the Thwackster. We've got this amazing artwork on Snow Bunny and Raboot. This is probably one of the coolest artworks in the set. Just look at the Raboots. Just hang out in the snow, kicking a snowball. Definitely awesome. Also an amazing artwork from the set. We've got Rapid Strike Inkay. Oh, look how cute. Rockruff playing in the snow. Galarian Slowking. Oh, my boy, look at that. He's dripping some poison ooze from his head. He's playing with it. He's got some slime. That's nice. What you do? Galarian Slowking. Secret Medicine. Once during your turn, you may choose one of your Pokemon and flip a coin. If heads, heal 90. If tails, put 3 damage. Sounds like a silly deck to me. That sounds like a silly deck to me. I love it. That sounds great. You get to heal 90. Half the time, it works every time, chat. Survival Kit. Look at 3 cards on the bottom of your deck, rearrange them as you like, and put them on top of your deck. That's an item card. That's actually really interesting. I think that Survival Kit is it's interesting because it gives you some selectivity over what you're going to be drawing into. I guess you could use it with Zacian V, right? Marnie Tech. Turn 1 Marnie. But I mean, like, the thing is, though, what if the 3 cards you look at are bad? I wish there was some selectivity that you could keep. It's not really an anti-Marnie Tech because you're just going to be you can't stop yourself from seeing one of the cards, right? you could use it to stack Metal Energy, I guess, for Zacian V, but then, like, you know, what if you find no Metal Energy? Then you're not stacking anything, right? So I'm not exactly sure what the combo is for Survival Kit, but I don't think the card is bad. I think it's an interesting card, and it could see some play somewhere. I just don't know where that where is right now. Since you don't have the selectivity to keep a card on the bottom of the deck, you're forced to put those bottom 3 cards on top of your deck, even if they're bad, which is that's kind of the thing, right? Even if they're bad. So you could combine with Caitlyn after Marnie. I mean, I guess. But the thing is, you have to put those cards on top of your deck, which I think actually kind of holds that card back a little bit. Galarian Weezing has an ability, Energy Factory. Any basic darkness energy attached to your Pokemon in play with Weezing in their name provides 2 darkness energy instead. And then it's got Gas Wrap. Yikes. For dark and a colorless, does 50 damage. And then this Weezing has Gas Mix. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Attach a darkness energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So it accelerates energy to itself, and then it's got the Smog Burst attack. 20 plus 20 more damage for each darkness energy attached to all of your Pokemon in play. And if they're all Weezings, then you could double up on your darkness energy and try to do lots of damage with your Smog Burst. So Smog Burst, if you have, say you have 10 darkness energy, okay? Say you, all right, hear me out. You play it with experience share. Do you not? You play it with experience share, okay? And you're passing back all your darkness energy. Play it with like turbo patches, okay? And if you have 10 darkness energy in play, you're doing 20 plus 20 more damage for each darkness energy attached to all of your Pokemon. You're doing, is my math wrong? Are you doing 400 damage? Because having 10 darkness energy with Weezing is like having 20 darkness energy in play, right? Is like having 20. And then if you have 20 darkness energy in play, then, I mean, you're just doing a lot of damage. I mean, that's like, yeah, 2 times 2. That's like 420 damage, right? Which is insane. Could you fit Hydreigon? I don't think that you're going to be able to fit Hydreigon in this deck. But I think that that's certainly like, that's not nothing, right? I mean, 10 energy, that's 10 energy to do 400 damage. If you have, all right, let's do the math. If you have 8 energy in play, then what number do you need? How much energy in play do you need in order to actually start hitting some numbers? If you have 8 energy in play, I actually am getting out a calculator. Yeah, okay. I just, you know what? It's been a long day, all right? So, all right, 8 times 2 is like having 16 energy in play. That's 340 damage, right? No, it's 340. I'm sorry, Burb Jam, and it's not 640. No, it's 340, right? Because, which is good, right? 8's 320 plus the 20 though, right? Plus the 20. So it's 340. So 8 energy is your magic number, and 8 energy seems kind of conceivable. I mean, your Weezing accelerates energy to itself. You can pass energy back. You play a 4 experience share in this deck, right? And then you have Moltres V from Matchless Fighter, which will also be in our Chilling Rain set, which accelerates a darkness energy from the discard pile to itself. Even though you won't be able to double up on those energy, that's still an energy attachment per turn. I think at the very least, the Weezing deck will be a nice, silly deck that we can do a deck profile on. And I think it even could be a pretty good single prize deck. 8 energy for 1-hit KOs on Pokemon VMAX. I mean, yeah, and you could energy switch that energy off of the Moltres V in order to get that energy to double up. I think at the very least, this could be a good archetype post-rotation. We don't have to worry about Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX. Peonia is a supporter card, allows you to choose up to 3 of your prize cards and put them into your hand. Then choose the same number of cards from your hand and add them to your prize cards face down. Peonia is just a good card. I mean, it kind of falls in Gladian's footsteps, right? We've got Gladian. Gladian is kind of your classic control supporter right? Allows you to look at your face down prize cards and put one of them into your hand, then shuffle this Galarian into your remaining prize cards and put them back face down, right? So I think that Galarian was kind of your typical control card, because you could use Galarian to go fish out a one-of prize card that you may have needed in a deck that doesn't take prize cards. So I think Peonia is really only going to see play in decks that don't take prize cards, because then, like, I'm all about just taking prize cards the old-fashioned way. You don't necessarily want to waste your supporter for turn flipping your prize cards over unless you're actually going to be drawing them. But in a control style deck, okay, that doesn't take prize cards, this card is nuts, because if you use it twice, then you have access to all 6 of your prize cards. Now, there isn't selectivity. If a card that you need is prized, you're not guaranteed to get it off the Peonia, because you only get to look at 3 of your prize cards and put them into your hand. But you don't have to reorder them. In an expanded format, you can use Town Map to flip over your prize cards, and then you can use Peonia to grab exactly what you want. So that is a pretty potent combination in expanded format. In standard format, you don't really have that option. But if you use Peonia twice, you are guaranteed to have access to all 6 of your prize cards, because you don't have to reorder or shuffle your prize cards when you use Peonia. You can just take, I do 3 and 3 when I do my prize cards, so you could just take the top 3, right, and then replace the top 3, and then next time you use Peonia, you could take the bottom 3 and replace the bottom 3. So that is certainly an interesting card, and I think it's going to definitely see play in control decks. I think Sander is one of the best control players in the world, and tweeted that he's very excited to going back to playing one-ofs in like 30 one-ofs in his control decks, right? Thanks to Peonia. Peony is a supporter card that reads: discard your hand, then search your deck for up to 2 trainer cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So you have to discard your hand, but you can get any 2 trainer cards you want out of your deck. You could use Peony to help set up stage 2 Pokemon. You could just go fetch Rare Candy and your Evolution Incense to go get your stage 2 Pokemon into play. You could refill your hand with the Kricketune V. If you've got a good card in your hand that you don't want to discard, you could put a card from your hand on top of your deck with Primate Wisdom Oranguru. Will Peony be the saving grace we need for Stage 2 Pokemon? Will Peony be that supporter card that finally makes Stage 2 Pokemon easier to set up? It is quite the tall order having to discard your hand, though, especially in a Stage 2 deck, right? Because you have to get rid of your entire hand. A lot of times Stage 2 decks don't want to discard their entire hand, right? And then with Kricketune, you only get to fill your hand to 3. I think that while this card is legal with Silvally GX, I think Silvally GX is kind of a better partner for Peony at this time, but in a Stage 2 deck, are you really going to have the luxury of space to be able to play a Silvally GX with its disc reload ability? I do think that the supporter has potential. I do think it's a supporter that maybe could see play in control style decks as well. Any kind of deck that really draws a lot of cards, maybe wants to find very specific cards out of the deck to pull off advanced combos. But the inherent problem with this card is that you want to play this card in a deck that wants to pull off advanced combos, but then you have to discard your hand. Advanced combo decks don't want to discard their hand. It's the opposite of what you want to do in an advanced combo deck. In an advanced combo deck, you want to never have to discard anything because you're trying to pull off very advanced combos. So Peony is a card that helps you pull off advanced combos, but at what cost? And then finally, we've got Rapid Strike Zebstrika and Rapid Strike Blitzel. Blitzel, how did you make your way out into the middle of the ocean onto an iceberg? Bud, you're a little in over your head out here. A long way from home, Blitzel. You're like Castaway, bro. I'm sorry, man. Hopefully this works out better for you, because right here it looks like you're you're kind of out of luck. All right, Zebstrika, Rapid Strike flavor. Okay, got some killer artwork there. Link Bolt for 1 colorless energy does 30 plus damage. If any of your other Rapid Strike Pokemon used an attack during your previous turn, does 90 more damage. And then Spark Rush for lightning and 2 colorless. Flip a coin until you get tails, does 90 damage for each head. So you're telling me if I can just flip 3 heads in a row, I can do 270 damage. That's what you're telling me? All I gotta do is flip 3 heads. Oh, baby. Link Bolts, though, does guaranteed 120 for 1 colorless. Just one of your Rapid Strike Pokemon had to use an attack during the last turn. Reminds me a little bit of the Rapid Strike Zeraora V that we saw a little bit earlier. That same kind of synergy there, right, where you want your Rapid Strike Pokemon to be attacking turn after turn. Maybe you use the Rapid Strike Zebstrika in the Rapid Strike Zeraora deck so that you can kind of string attacks with your Rapid Strike Pokemon. I think that that would be fine, right? Because you're poking for 120, but then you're coming in with the Zeraora V and you're doing 100 and then snipe 160, right? So that makes the Zebstrika like a little bit better. But, you know, wouldn't you ideally, though, want to just be toggling between Zeraora Vs and just, you know, not having to worry about Zebstrika at all? Probably. But I think that that would be the reason that Zebstrika sees play would be to help out your Zeraora V if it sees any play at all. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, ring that bell, and of course, check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/TrickyJim, where I stream live Pokemon trading card game content every single weekday. We've got a super welcoming community there, and we'd love you to be a part of it. If you've got extra cards lying around the house and you're trying to get some cash for them, or store credit, or a new booster box, make sure to check out the Full Grip Games buy list. We are always buying bulk and singles, and selling your cards to Full Grip Games directly supports the content I create here on Tricky Jim. Y'all have a great day. Peace.